Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Sports Wrap. My name is Scott Morgan, your host, Motor City Mad Miles. Please be joined by Candy Ambly's going to be in here tonight, producing, providing input where she can. Of course, she obviously known for the Milwaukee Admirals. All right.
That's
And
true.
we have Mike Santos, Mr. Hockey in my eyes. Okay. Our hockey genius. And we have Cody Spink, the future host of this show. And he will be
Proud
the
of it.
future host of this show. Yeah, this guy's done pretty good work, especially in the last few weeks when we've had some technical issues. Mike did a good job too filling in. While all my technical issues were turning me grayer and grayer and grayer and grayer. So you don't see the gray business with Mike Santos. If you look, this guy looks fantastic. This guy. I mean, he got all that dark hair, and me, I need a Grecian formula. I don't know if that would even work these days, but actually, just a little clue. When I start doing these videos overseas, the beard will go off. I'm contemplating getting rid of the mustache. So we'll probably have a clean look for Europe, and then I'll grow it back when I get back. So it'll be interesting to see how many my microphone and how many people come. Candy Ambly will tell you that this will be our last show for at least until May 14th. So hope you enjoyed this episode. A lot to talk about. All right, well, let's get to it. The Detroit set a professional women's hockey league attendance record of 15,938 at Little Caesars Arena. And apparently they're a front runner to get a PWHL team. And according to Detroit Red Wings owner Marian Illich, it looks like they're definitely going to get a team for sure. So, Cody, let's talk about women's hockey going to Metro Detroit.
I mean, they say it's the state of hockey. I don't see why not. I'm surprised they didn't have one to start with. I mean, you got, the Michigan Wolverines, Michigan State. You have that's where I believe the men's development program started and everything. You have the Detroit Red Wings original 6 team. I'm surprised they haven't had a women's team there yet. And I'm not shocked that they sold out at Little Caesars. And I think they deserve a women's team by next year. So I'm glad to see that.
Candy?
So they had 14,288 fans. It was the matchup between Minnesota Frost and the New York Sirens. The game also marked the league surpassing 1 million total fans. The previous attendance record was set in Denver, 14,018 back in 2025. And the game was part of PWHL's Takeover Tour, designed to bring games to NHL-sized markets, suggesting a high interest in a potential future team in Detroit. So I get it, Scott. I mean, the northern states hockey is big up in, North Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, all of those states. So I can totally see a women's hockey league doing well up there.
Yeah, not only that, my recent stat that I have, which on March 29th listed there was 15,938. But nevertheless, Detroit's a great hockey town. It'd be great to see the ladies lace it up over at Little Caesars Arena. Mike?
Well, I mean, they've done this in other cities too, right? I mean, they did it in Boston earlier this year. We've got to do what they've got to do to try to grow the sport, particularly to grow the PWHL. They got a long way to go. And again, you've got that question about, how many of these tickets were actually sold and for how much and all that type of stuff. And which is just natural. But they've got to grow the league, first of all, so they can become a more traditional structured league as opposed to the single entity league they are now, where Mark Walter owns the whole league and the teams, meaning he owns all the contracts of all the players as well. And it makes sense to go to, as Candy said, the stronger markets for hockey. I mean, Michigan, particularly Detroit, is definitely one of them. Boston, where they played a game before, is another. Good for them. I wish them the best. It's a long road, and as we saw with the WNBA, it's going to be a long time before the NHL puts their hand in there and helps them out. And that's what they probably need more than anything, particularly when it comes to exposure and in the form of a television contract, because they're not going to get that national, or I guess international when you include Canada, exposure until they get that big TV deal. And that's not likely to come, similar to the WNBA again, until the NHL puts them on their back and negotiates with some of their outlets and says, okay, you can cover the NHL for X billion dollars, but you also have to do so many PWHL games, and you have to, feature them on Sports Center and all the other things that we see with the WNBA. I think they've got plenty of talented players. I think there's plenty of draw there. I think that the sport itself is in a good place, women's ice hockey, and particularly with what's gone on with U.S. colleges in the last 20 years. But the big thing business-wise for them is they're going to have to just hang in there for a while, and maybe at some point the NHL will help them along with a TV contract that will give them the exposure that they need.
I would hope the NHL network might help them out a little bit too. I don't know. But anyway, they promote the ladies. It's funny how you mentioned WNBA though, because actually in 2029, WNBA awarded Detroit expansion team, and Tom Gores figures to own it. Grant Hill is behind it, and so there's a strong possibility the Detroit Shock will probably be brought back because they won a couple of titles. So I'm glad that we can talk women's sports here tonight on Sports Rep. So the Detroit Shock, as it stands right now, 2029 Detroit WNBA will be returning as well. But I don't think there's any doubt that the PWHL should work in Metro Detroit. It's a great hockey town, as many of us know it for sure. So I actually applaud them. And Little Caesars is a good place. And, you have the Pistons and the Red Wings. Why not have the Detroit Shock and a name, TBD name? And one of the names I've heard bannered around is Detroit Vipers, who Gordie Howe many years ago played for over with the Palace of Auburn Hills. Now that may be speculation, but who knows? Maybe you have the Vipers and the Shock there as well. Anything is possible. All right, let's continue. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just have a quick question, if anybody knows this, but when the WNBA came into being, which is over 30 years ago now, how many teams were there? Do you recall? Because, the PWHL 2 years ago started with 6. You look at the WNBA now, 30 plus years later, and they have a lot of teams and they cover a lot of markets, but it took time to grow into those markets, right?
8 teams in its inaugural season of 1997.
Yeah, there you go. So 30 years this year, I guess. This will be the 30th season, right? And eight teams, and PWHL started with 6. So I think they're going to be on the same type of track.
And keep in mind, those Vipers games are actually played at the Palace of Auburn Hills. I went to a couple of them. It's pretty interesting when they had that venue out there. All right, well, again, Detroit's going to get a PWHL, so it appears. Mary Ellis says it on our podcast. And after the 15,938, and the early signs are looking pretty good for him. All right, let's move it on to the men on Frozen Pond. Paul Maurice reached the 2,000 games coach, and is second behind Scotty Bowman, holds the mark 41-48. Cody, Paul Maurice, couldn't happen to a better guy. He's got a couple titles in his pocket.
Yeah, a couple recent titles. Well deserved. He's been a great coach everywhere he's been. Definitely someone that when he's talking, you want to have a recording device present, because just the quotes he comes up with is great. So congrats to Paul Maurice. Like I said, I wish before we had Joel Campbell, I wanted the Ducks to go get him if he was available. Great coach. I think he would have done great with our youth and everything. So, but like I said, he's done wonders there in Florida. 3 straight Stanley Cups. Unfortunately, it's not going to be a 4th, but at least he's hit the 2,000 mark and has the 3rd most wins, I believe.
Right.
So It's a great career and definitely a Hall of Fame coach.
Well, there's no question he cemented his legacy, especially winning 2 cups with the Florida Panthers. And now, when you're in a rare glorified year with Scotty Bowman, that speaks volumes, right, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, he's arguably the best coach of all time. Some of his former players might not agree with that, but the statistics bear that out. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? Like Cody said, Paul Maurice has done a great job, and he's been around a long time. I mean, he was the youngest coach in the league when he started, and one of the youngest coaches to ever coach in the NHL. And so, when he went behind the bench in, I believe it was Hartford, and then carried on down to Carolina with them, and he had success with that organization. The only stop that seemed to be to trip him up a little bit was that Winnipeg stop, and when he sort of left midstream and mid-season, and nobody really ever got the real reason why he quit on the team and left there. But for whatever reason, he ended up in a much better place in 3 cups in a row. And this year, I mean, it was just too much to ask of that team, I think, to get back for a 4th year.
Yeah, I didn't think they had a chance when they kept getting all those injuries. It began with Sasha Barkov, and then it continued to add up from there. So, Candy, any thoughts on this, or you want to just defer on some of these?
No, I'll put a little bit. At age 43, Maurice became the youngest coach in NHL history to coach 1,000 games. He reached that milestone on November 28th of 2010. He and Scotty Bowman are the only head coaches to have coached in at least 2,000 NHL games. So that's pretty crazy. And he's originally from Canada. So yeah, he's been coaching since 88.
Okay, well, Austin Matthews refuses to commit to signing with the Toronto Maple Leafs for long term. He says, I really can't predict the future. Okay, Cody, can you blame him?
Sorry, say that one more time.
Sure. Austin Matthews refuses to commit to signing in Toronto long term. I can't really predict the future. Can you blame him?
Not one bit. I hate to say that, like, it has to do with, the Ducks because of the whole Radko Gudas thing. But, right. I mean, you're the team's best player and you get taken out on a dirty play like that. I have no problem admitting it. It was dirty. And nobody comes to defense for you. Everyone just said like, oh, I didn't see the play. But yeah, if you look at the replay, both of them have their hands up like they're asking for a penalty. So and the way this team is going, the curse, the media, I don't blame anyone one bit for wanting to get the hell out of Toronto. I mean, we'll see how Marner does outside. I mean, he's probably, not worrying about getting death threats or getting his house broken into every night or something like that when he was in Toronto. So I'm pretty sure he's a lot happier in Vegas, and I can only see Matthews falling in his footprints to go, somewhere in the USA and playing out there, and probably a lot less, hype and a lot less media. So I don't blame him one bit.
Mike?
I think Austin Matthews is a very good hockey player. I think a lot of his success is built on a big, heavy shot, which allows him to score a lot of goals. One thing he's not is a leader. And when the Leafs took the captaincy away from John Tavares and put it on Austin Matthews, that was a bad move for the organization. And it was bad for Austin Matthews because he just can't be that guy. And I think that he's probably going to be better off somewhere else. He's certainly, especially as a United States guy, being the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, not cut out for the pressure of Toronto, especially since it's been so long since they've gotten a sniff of the Stanley Cup Finals, never mind the Stanley Cup itself. So I think he's better off moving along to somewhere else. I think the Leafs are better off moving him somewhere else before, there's another player that leaves like Marner and goes away for free. But I think he's got to go somewhere where he's not the leader, he's not the number one guy, the number one option, and he can just be another big part of the team and fill the net with goals. And almost I don't want to compare him to this guy personality wise, but certainly success wise, almost like Phil Kessel.
Really? Okay.
I mean, Phil Kessel, he was he wasn't a leader, didn't want to be a leader. Certainly wasn't real good with his fitness or his diet, but man, you could count on him for 50 goals every year. I mean, he was as prolific a goal scorer as we've seen in the last probably 40, 50 years. And I think Matthews can be the same type of guy. He's just not going to be a leader, and he's not going to be the guy that you want being followed.
Okay. Anything you want to add to it, Candy?
So he holds 4 different NHL records. Most goals scored in his NHL debut with 4. Most goals by an American-born rookie. He had 40. Most consecutive games with a shot on goal to start a career. He had a 103-game streak. And he's the youngest player to record multiple points in each of his team's first 5 games of a season at age 21. So he actually surpassed Wayne Gretzky on that one, who did it at age 22. So the little bit that I'll add.
It's okay. Well, you know what? When I think about the Stanley Cup playoffs, one of the things that comes to mind is how much money every team spent. So I'm going to go over the top 10 highest payrolls in their record. 6 of them made it to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Florida, you understand why they did, because they were banged up. But Vegas was number 1 with a 39, 26, and 17 record. They spent $107 million. The Panthers spent $104 million. They were 40, 38, and 4. New York Islanders 43, 34, and 5. 99 million did not make it. And you have New Jersey 42, 37, and 3, 99 million didn't make it. And the Dallas Stars, by the way, end up getting in with 50, 20, and 12, 98 million bucks. They get in. The Edmonton Oilers 40, 30, and 11, $98 million. They get in. Tampa Bay Lightning 50, 26, and 6, 97 million. They get in. The Montreal Canadiens 48, 24, and 10, 95 million. They get in. San Jose Sharks didn't get in, but they were 38, 35, and 8, 95 million. And last but not least, the 10th team is Colorado Avalanche, 54, 16, and 11. They do get in. So 6 out, you look at 60%, Cody.
I mean, you can't really say the Sharks are in the top 10. They only are there because of the Carey Price deal. That's it. Because they have that $10 million cap hit. That's the only reason they're in there. Guy didn't even play for them. So Shark legend Carey Price. There's a lot of teams. I mean, Florida, we know why they didn't make it. They were just nothing but injuries this year. Islanders, I was shocked to see that they were that high, especially, since they were not a lottery team, but they end up winning the lottery and getting Schaefer. So I was not expecting them to be that high. The Devils, they have a lot of young talent. They spend a lot of money. They just riddled with injuries like normal. But I mean, it just goes to show you, just because you spend all the money doesn't mean you're going to always win. I mean, like I said, you said 3 of the 4 teams didn't even make it out of the top 10. So, I mean, it's just going to show you, like, just because you build the most expensive team doesn't mean it's the right team. You got to have the best chemistry to have the best chance.
Mike?
Well, in the salary cap world that is the NHL now, where they have an upper and a lower limit, the team that spends the most money and the team that spends the least money, there's really not that big of a difference anymore. Not like there used to be before the salary cap world. So that's the first thing. Secondly, when you have success, like Florida, like Vegas, like Tampa Bay, 3 of the teams you mentioned, success meaning you win a cup or 2 or 3, you're going to pay to keep some of those top players. and that's going to take you to the top of the salary cap heap without a doubt. Otherwise, you're not going to stay there. You know, if you're Tampa, you need to re-sign Vasilevsky and Kucherov, especially when their deals come up. You let other guys go, like a Stamkos, for instance, who basically thought he was going to finish his career there. But you've got to pay those guys that are still in the prime of their career and important parts of your team. Similar for the Panthers, similar for
Right.
Dave. Just to make that window stay open as long as it can. So again, like Cody said, the only ones I'd really be a little disappointed in right now, and one of them they fired their general manager, is New Jersey Devils and the New York Islanders. I mean, I think what happened, particularly with the Islanders this year, was bad. I mean, that's a team that first half of the season you would have said they're gonna be in a playoff spot, but something went wrong with Patrick Waugh, and then they decided to make the move near the end of the season and bring in Pete DeBoer. But to spend that much money, I mean, I believe both of those teams were in the top 5 payrolls that you mentioned. That's pretty rough results to take if you're an owner.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the Panthers, no question, the injuries killed them. And again, I think the Islanders, when they brought in Pete DeBoer, that was a desperate move to see if they could have a puncher's chance. But they also knew he was the best coach available for what they wanted to do. And again, there's like 2 other teams that didn't make it. But regardless, I mean, 6 out of 10 got in, but how you stay in, some of the other teams that aren't on there are doing pretty well themselves. And one of them, which I'm going to get to now, is the Philadelphia Flyers, obviously, are heading back to the postseason. I want to welcome a new person here named Ed McAndrew. Ed, thank you very much for being on. He came with me from another network just in time, and he's going to join us along with Candy. She's going to be in here too. Ed's going to probably be a part of our soccer coverage, right? When Dave Bradley is on, Dave and I, and they came from another spot. I want to thank him. We didn't get to Ovechkin yet, so I deliberately waited on it. So you got on. There he goes. He's got the Capitals. Dennis couldn't make it tonight because of an issue with his pet. So anyways, let me get to the Flyers, and then we'll head over to the Capitals. But the Flyers are heading back to the playoffs for the first time since 2019. Doesn't look like they're in a hurry to leave either, because they lead Pittsburgh 3-0 in that series. Rick Tocchet obviously has done an amazing job, and and get this, here's an unbelievable stat we're talking about, that history's on Philly's side. When they go up 2-0, they're 18-0 when leading all time in a series 2-0. Well, we'll break in. Mr. McAndrew, what are your thoughts about the way the Flyers are playing? Glad to have you on.
Well, I think, just so everybody knows, my I guess they're probably my second favorite team, because that's where my roots are. Got a lot of family up there, went to school up there, university. I think they're starting to play like the back in the 70s and late 80s when Bobby Clark and those guys were around. I think they're really giving it to the Penguins. I heard, what was it? They had like a 3% chance, like 6 weeks, 7 weeks out to making the playoffs, and now they're about to sweep the Penguins. Which, as a Capitals fan, I will tell you, there's nothing really better than watching the Penguins get swept by anybody. It's kind of like it's like being being a Redskins fan, watching Cowboys lose. So no, I think they're good. They keep playing like this. They may be a hard out for anybody that's going to face them, just because you let the underdog stick around a little bit, they start getting confidence that they can play with anybody. And I know Carolina playing pretty well in the Florida teams, but I just never count the Philly teams out.
Okay, Cody.
I mean, when you have a goalie and his nickname is Darth Vladar, I mean, I think he was probably the best signing in the offseason, it seems like. What he's done in the back end for the Philadelphia Flyers, and we all thought Urson was the guy, but no. is Dan Vladar, who was a backup last year in Calgary. And he's just been on fire. And then Porter Martone, I mean, wow, what he's doing as a rookie in his first 10, 15 games is unbelievable. And like I said, and you got Zegras, you got Drysdale, Couturier, they're all playing very well at the right time. You know, like I said, I knew Trevor Zegras was going to thrive there, especially since he's back with his best friend Jamie Drysdale. You know, so and he's away from Greg Cronin. You know, some probably with a coach that actually cares more about, you know, growing a player than just playing defense and yelling at him. And so I knew the Flyers were going to take a step up this year. I wasn't expecting this big of a step up, to be honest.
I'll tell you, they look really good down the stretch. I know the Red Wings and the Flyers play each other tough every year, and the Red Wings played them. It was pretty interesting to see Philadelphia in their climb. John Tortorella was there, wasn't able to get it done, but meanwhile, ironically, he's in Vegas, and Rick Tockett's done a phenomenal job. Andy, anything you want to say about this?
You know what? I mean, when a team goes into the playoffs and they're hot and they're playing really well and they're gelling as a team, that's the one thing I would say about hockey is you really need to be cohesive and playing all together as one. And when you're doing that, you have success. You have success on the ice, and I think that's what's happening right now for the Flyers. So kudos to them.
Mike?
Well, first of all, 3 good points. First, Candy, there's nothing like the momentum that an NHL team can carry into the playoffs. I mean, teams that play well, especially when you've got to fight your way into the playoffs, you see it so often. Edmonton a couple of years ago, right? The Panthers getting in the last day and going all the way to the finals before they lose to Vegas. There's something about that momentum that NHL teams get just to battle to get into the playoffs that they're able to carry through for 8 weeks. That's number one. 2 good points by Cody. Number one, Vladar. You're not winning a Stanley Cup. That's the Edmonton Oilers. You can go far, but you're not winning the Stanley Cup unless you have the goaltending. And he's arguably the best, if not one of the best, 2 goalies in the league, probably the whole second half of the season. And he's riding the wave. I mean, we saw that happen with Bobrovsky the last couple of years, right? We saw it happen with Marty Brodeur back in the 90s and Patrick Waugh in the 80s. I mean, it's
Jonathan Quick in 2012.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you've got to get the goaltending at the right time, and they've got it. So that's really huge for them. The biggest thing that the Flyers need to do, though, is they need to get a big card, and everybody in the organization needs to send it, thanking the Nashville Predators, my former team, for screwing up another draft and taking Brady Martin instead of Martone, because there's no way Martone should have fell to the Flyers at 6, but he did, and this is the result. He's a terrific player. And, you know, some of the other things, I mean, obviously Cody's as close to the Ducks as anybody, but, you know, a couple of those deals that had to be made were really what set up the Ducks for success too, namely Cutter Gauthier.
Yeah.
Cutter Gauthier, I know because he went to my alma mater. I know him very well. I knew him when he was younger. I knew him as a college player, and he's a star. He's a star, and didn't want to be in Philadelphia. And Philly had to trade those parts. You know, first of all, you know, like the Drysdales, to get Cutter Gauthier. And then, of course, they've continued to deal those 2 teams, and it's worked out Philly's way in the most recent deal, I think.
Well, I mean, I'm happy for Philadelphia. They got rid of that little drought themselves. When you talk about 2019, 2020, and that's a pretty good year for them, a good way to build on. So, with that said, let's go to the Washington Capitals. As everybody knows that they were eliminated from the 2026 Stanley Cup playoff contention, but the median price for their final ticket home game started at $746, and it dropped $500 to 250 is what it did. And then, but now adds a narrative twist. The Capitals are giving Alex Ovechkin a deadline: either make up your mind or do what you got to do. I don't blame them for doing that. But let's talk about Ovechkin to begin with. That final home game, they tried to go ahead and charge a lot, but how quickly those numbers went down to 250. Mike, your thoughts about the attempted price gouging and now where Ovechkin stands?
The Capitals can give Ovechkin any type of demand they want. Ovechkin's going to call the shots. He's going to decide when he's going to retire, when he's going to decide to re-sign or not re-sign, and the Capitals are going to live with it either way. So, I mean, you don't do that to one of the greatest goal scorers, if not the greatest goal scorer of all time, especially a guy that's spent his whole career in Washington and is beloved by their fan base. And let's face it, they've only won one cup in their history, and it was with this guy. So, I don't buy any of it. Alex will make up his mind. I think he'll play another year. I don't think he'll want to go out with without having a little bit of a tour around the league, which he deserves. And I think the Caps will be happy to have him back and sell a lot of tickets next season for what will probably be his last season.
Well, you know what he has in common at the moment with Brett Favre, don't you?
What's that?
You know what he has in common with Brett Favre, don't you?
Yeah, well, he's not Brett Favre.
No, but he's waffling.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I got a person like Candy Ebling on who's a Green Bay girl. I had to use the word waffling with her on. Sorry, Mike.
Well, I don't think Ovechkin's waffling. I think I think he already knows what he's gonna do, but he just knows that he's Alex Ovechkin and he can do what he wants.
Exactly.
That's true. I was looking for an excuse to have a Brett Favre reference. Like, we all know the obvious answer. Whatever Alexander the Great wants, he's going to do what he wants. And all right, Candy, we'll turn over to you about Brett Favre. And then I know McAndrew was out there waiting to get a crack at this topic because I waited a little later in the show for him to get on to talk about it.
How many greats of a sport only play for one team for their whole career? Like, there aren't that many. Brett Favre didn't. I mean, Peyton Manning didn't, if you're talking, So, and he's played since 2001 till now. He was selected first overall in the 2004 NHL draft, and he's played his whole career there. I mean, like, that's unheard of. I think, Mike, I agree with you. I think he knows what he wants to do already. He just hasn't voiced it out. Just kind of, I would say, because I'm a football person, I would say Aaron Rodgers knows what he's going to do. He just hasn't voiced it out to Pittsburgh as well. And I think the greats, they can do that. That they can take a little extra time and make it a little more drama. He's earned that right. 900 scored goals, that's unbelievable. Kudos to him. I hope he comes back, if that's what he wants to do.
Okay. All right, Ed. Floor's yours, my friend. Your first time here. Bring it to me.
Well, I had the privilege of being at that game.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah, I was. My one of my buddies here, his neighbor has his neighbor's company had tickets, and the guy couldn't use them, so he gave them to my buddy, and my buddy asked me, and my friend is a Bruins fan, so or an anti-Capitals fan, whatever you want. And it was great, seeing Pittsburgh, seeing Sidney Crosby was there. It was a great atmosphere, like you were saying, Scott. They love, he's beloved by everybody in the community. He's, will be forever known as one of Washington's greats. And to Candy's point, you really don't see that ever, where somebody that great, even the great Gretzky, didn't finish out and didn't do it all in one. And I hope he comes back for kind of a farewell tour. However, I with the way the Capitals got rid of traded Carlson to the or let Carlson go to the Ducks at the deadline and kind of getting rid of some of the other players and pieces. It's almost like they're starting to rebuild. Seeing like Oshie gone and Backstrom and a lot of the guys from the 18 club, he's kind of the last man standing. And I to your point, Mike, I think you're right. He does have it made. I just don't know which way he's going. I don't. I could see him saying, it's time to move on because the Capitals have decided, to move on. I mean, the when they got rid of Carlson, the whole team was, from Tom Wilson down, was shocked. I mean, they got rid of one of their associate captains. So it was a great game. I mean, that last game was great. I remember when he was drafted, watching him for all those years. He made the DC area a hockey town. It was not. Heck, I grew up watching the Capitals at the Capitol Center. I mean, my dad would take us $9 seats. You could sit like 5 rows from the ice, with Rod Langway and all of those guys. It was good, and they just never made anything until Ovechkin got here. So, it was a great run he's had here. Maybe the farewell tour for one more. But I think the Caps are seriously in a rebuild, restructure type mode right now. And we'll see what happens.
I have a question for you, Ed.
Yes.
Would you consider Alex Ovechkin the greatest athlete in Washington sports history?
Great question.
Ooh, that's a good question. Greatest athlete.
I mean, the Redskins have some Super Bowl teams, but not.
Yeah.
Ovechkin.
No, they. I would say I go on a limb and say not even go on a limb. I would say yes, because of what he's accomplished. He not only brought a cup to a team that was never really in the running before. Plus, he's the. I mean, I think for the most part, I'm not going to insult anybody, but I think most of us remember Gretzky breaking the record. Actually seeing him break the record, and then how many people thought that we would see it twice in one lifetime, that same record broken. I mean, he did. So to answer your question, Mike, I think he could very well be. Yeah, I mean, even putting, next to the great Joe Gibbs, who wasn't really an athlete, he was a coach. I don't think you can. I mean, what he did on Blades of Steel. I mean, he will go down in Washington lore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could say there's a Senators player or even a Nationals player. I mean, Frank Howard, probably not.
No.
Or the Redskins. I mean,
RG3. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, I mean, like John
Riggins, maybe. John Riggins.
Darryl
maybe
Green.
Darryl Green. Yeah, you know what? Candy, that's a good point. I would. Darryl Green probably would be the closest thing to give him a running, I think. Just because of what he was able to do with his size and the speed he had, with also his, they were big into the community as well. Darryl Green is still beloved here.
Yeah, I don't think there's any Wizards / Bullets guys that I mean, I know Russell and Sell and those stuff, but I don't think
No. Because nobody broke a record that they thought would never see broken again. It's kind of like when Ripken broke the consecutive game streak. Nobody thought that would happen too. So I mean, I think you got to really give him what Ovechkin did this year. You got to give him a lot. You got to that puts him head and shoulders above most of if not all the athletes here in the DC Metro.
That Washington Redskins team was a really good team. John Riggins used to eat defenses up alive.
I loved watching him. He was
unbelievable. All right, go ahead, Cody. You can close out this topic. I have another one that's even
I mean, I think you guys said it all. So I mean, there's really nothing else for me to add. But let's just say, I hope he does one more season for a farewell tour. He deserves it 100%, and just the respect he has around the league is just,
Right.
I would love to see him at least one more year.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one of the reasons the Detroit Red Wings are not in the playoffs is because they didn't fall into this category teams with their best records during March. Okay, and one of the reasons that the Buffalo Sabres are in it because they're at the top of that list. They're 11-2-2. St. Louis was 10-2-2. Boston 10-3-2. Montreal 10-4-1. The Flyers we talked about 10-4-1. Colorado 10-4-1. Edmonton 9-4-1. And Ottawa. All right, Mike. I'll tell you, when you win in March, you're going to play some extra hockey.
Yeah, I mean, the only team on that list that didn't make it is St. Louis, and that's because they were so far out of it. They almost crawled in there, but it didn't quite get there. And it's what we talked about earlier. I mean, you've got to be playing your best hockey the last month of the season going into the playoffs. And I'll go as far as to say it almost doesn't matter what position you finish in. I mean, I said this back in the 90s. I'm showing my age, but when I was in the league, working in the league in the 90s, and things changed as far as the rink size. There used to be different sized rinks depending on what arena you were playing in, what city you were playing in. The size of the Boston Garden wasn't the same size as the Northlands Coliseum in Edmonton. But then when Gary Bettman became commissioner in '93, one of the first things he did for television was he standardized the rink size, and all the rinks were then 200 by 85. He also standardized the size of the glass surrounding the rinks, the color of the kick plates on the bottom of the rink. Some teams used to have light blue back in the day. Now they're all yellow. What this did was it really took the home ice advantage. And another thing I just thought, the penalty bench used to be next to the home team bench in buildings. But what happened was you took away the home ice advantage from a lot of teams, or from all the teams. And if you took a team today and blindfolded them and dropped them on the ice, they wouldn't know where they were until the other team came out of the ice. And I bring all that up because, again, I think it's more important that you're playing your best hockey going into the playoffs than what position you fall in. As long as you're over the 8 in each conference, you got as good a chance as anybody else as long as you're playing that good.
Candy?
The only thing I really have to add to Mike's is not only do you have to be playing your best, you also have to be healthy. Because if you're not healthy and you have a lot of injuries, you still might be playing good, but if you don't have the horses, like the Panthers didn't have the horses at the end to really do anything. Because they've played a lot of hockey these last couple of years. They didn't have the legs, the steam, and everything. So I think besides being hot, you also have to be healthy.
I mean, the only thing I'll say about it is hockey's version of March's, which is called September's version of baseball, period. You're playing well in September, then you're playing well in March and making the postseason. Go ahead, Ed.
No, I agree with Mike. I think you have to be playing. You have to finish strong and go in strong. I mean, both Mike and Candy made excellent points. The healthy teams are going to go further, and if you got to be playing, you got to have all the cylinders firing in playoff time, because the grind is real and it just keeps going. That's a lot of hockey. That's a lot. That's a lot by the time you get into late May, June timeframe.
Yeah, recovery time is just not much before you get back to the fall. That's for sure.
Exactly.
And that's what doomed the Florida Panthers. Hey, you're good, but you pay the price physically. But again, nobody's going to complain when you win 2 Stanley Cups and make it there 3 times. All right, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, the Buffalo Sabres, I mean, they were hot right after they fired Kevin Adams, who should be GM of the year, in my opinion. But the St. Louis Blues, I mean, they sold at the deadline. You know, they sold their captain, they sold another couple players, and yet they went on a 10-2-2. I think they were just too far out of it, but what a great, way to
Right.
come back. The Columbus Blue Jackets, after they got Rick Bowness as coach, they really turned things around until April just really kind of just ruined that for them. So I mean, March is a month you want to start, getting healthy and start getting the momentum right before playoffs, because that's like, if you can get March going and make it go into April, and right when the postseason hits, that's usually when teams make decent playoff runs. That's what I've seen. I mean, the LA Kings in 2010. I mean, I know we're going to talk about him in a second, but probably one of the greatest playoff runs by a goalie ever. With Jonathan Quick. I mean, the team just got hot at the right moment, at the right time. They were fully healthy. I think at that time they had the best record in March too. So, as I said, it really helps when teams have good records in March.
I'm not going to let the Olympic break anybody have an excuse for that. That's the time to rest your players. So the only way that you don't recover from that is flat. But we'll continue on. One that Cody should be all familiar, make a great time here. And I'll obviously welcome Ed McAndrews of the network. Look forward to using Ed definitely on hockey, soccer, and he also wants a piece of the football action, don't you? So we're going to give him that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I work with him at another network. I said, Ed, it's time to join my network, and all of a sudden it came together pretty quickly. So, all right, Anaheim Ducks signed GM Pat Verbeek to a multi-year contract. We'll start with Mr. Duck himself, Cody.
I mean, I'm happy with the resigning. He's really made his mark here in Anaheim. I don't agree with everything that he does. Just the RFA signings. At least he got one of them done already with Jackson Lacombe, signing him, this year. And honestly, who knows? That deal could have been bigger if we would have waited till the end of this year. Signing him 8 years for $9 million a year. He could have been looking at maybe $9.5, $10 million the way he played this year. So, but like I said, getting Chris Kreider, Trouba, and getting Granlund, and then nobody saw the John Carlson trade. Nobody saw that one coming. So, and I didn't even know he was even available, but I guess Verbeek was very adamant on getting him, and and only giving up our 2026 first round pick for that. I mean, I would do that in a heartbeat for someone like John Carlson. So, I mean, no offense, Ed. I hope we re-sign him for at least a couple more years. So
I hope you do too. I mean, I figure the Caps are trading him. He's not in their future plans. I think, as I said earlier, that they're looking young. And I am now a Ducks fan because I'm a Carlson fan, and I'd like to see John win his second one with the Ducks because he was a big part of the Capitals family and the community here and stuff like that. So it was a sad day and a shock. Like you said, nobody saw it coming.
Yeah. When I got that notification from Elliot Freeman, I was like, I was like half asleep. I'm like, did I really just see this right? So, but like I said, Verbeek's really made his voice known here. You could tell like he's changing this franchise around from being a bottom feeder team for the last 6-7 years to now a playoff team, and now they're starting to play well. They're giving Edmonton a run for their money right now. I mean, if they lose in the first round, I still consider this a winning season in my eyes. I mean, there's parts of the season where, I was very negative about it. I mean, Candy and Scott heard me say it on the Wednesday show on how bad they were playing. But I think what he has going is he's doing it right. And like I said, I think 31 other GMs probably would have taken Adam Fantilli and number 2 overall instead of Leo Carlson. And look what Leo Carlson's been doing since he's been at Anaheim Duck. He's been a franchise player for us, and he's been a game changer. And he's going to be probably a top 10 player in the league soon.
Well, I'll tell you about the Red Wings aren't in the playoffs, but Pat Verbeek came from the Wings, and so did Jim Mills. So their presence is in there. They just are out of it, but a couple of guys that came from their system did. All right, Ed, you can continue on. Anything else you want to add to this?
No, I'm just like Cody was saying. I mean, I
Okay.
think they're doing. I mean, the fact that he was able to get Carlson for a steal, basically, I think one of the top defensemen in the league. I think that's going to be that's a huge
Right.
plus for them.
Okay, Candy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot more to add. I mean, he was a former player that spent 20 seasons of experience and over 1,000 career points. He knows hockey, so, and obviously, if you're doing a good job, it pays to get rewarded.
Hey, Mike.
I didn't know Patty very well personally when he was playing. I knew who he was because he'd bite your ankles off. He was as competitive a player as I've ever seen in the NHL, ever. I mean, they used to call him the little ball of hate was his nickname, if you remember that. But I got to know Pat real well when he got into management, particularly when he was scouting. And he worked as hard scouting as he did as a player. And when the Ducks hired him, I had no doubt that he was a guy that was going to turn that thing around there. He was one of two general managers to take my Team 33 hockey operations management software. The other was the Montreal Canadiens. And I toot my own horn. They both had great success with that software. And I think you can look back now, especially a guy like you, Scott, and to see why Steve Yzerman had so much success in Tampa. And because that was his right-hand man. And he was the one that did all the drafting. And he was the one behind all the moves they made in Tampa to set that team up. What has been for better than a decade now of being a Stanley Cup contender year in. And he went on his way to Detroit with Steve before the call came from Anaheim. And I think that's Stevie would probably tell you that's the big missing piece he has right now, trying to put something together in Detroit because he misses Patrick. So good for him. He deserves every penny. He deserves the extension, and the Ducks will be in good hands with him as long as they keep.
Oh, not only that, they added Joel Quenneville, too. They didn't mind bringing Joel back, and Joel's done pretty well his first year. We'll continue on. Ron Francis is stepping down the president of hockey operations for the Seattle Kraken. Some thoughts about the move. Mike?
I didn't hear the question, Scott.
That's okay. Ron Francis stepping down president of hockey operations for the Seattle Kraken.
Ron Francis, great guy, Hall of Fame player. Terrible manager. I mean, that's just the fact. I mean, he did nothing in Carolina as a manager, and he's really done nothing other than they made the playoffs the first year with probably the most lenient expansion draft rules. Well, definitely the most lenient expansion draft rules in the history of the NHL. He's just. Again, great guy. Not so sure that he has the work ethic of Verbeek, let's say, a former teammate way back when in Hartford. Wish him luck. Not sure his heart was really into Seattle anyways. It took him forever before he even moved out there. He was working from the East Coast for a few years. So, yeah, and, again, and a terrific guy, really, and even a better hockey player. But I just have to be honest, I'm not impressed by his management.
I agree with you. I thought they brought in a few good coaches there, especially Dave Haxtell. And what did he do? Fire him after a winning season, after he looked like he was getting it straight? I haven't seen a whole lot come from it then. But I agree, he's done nothing to impress me either. Candy.
I mean, his fingerprints are going to be forever on the organization, but yeah, I think they didn't have the success that they thought they would have with him, and so They mutually decided, it's time to move on. And that just shows you that not all fits work. So sometimes you got to, realize that and, move on.
And
Hey, just because you're a great player is not going to necessarily make you great management or, manager of said franchises or stuff like that. It happens. You gave it a shot. Time to move on and see where we're going, see where it's going. So,
Cody,
Well, back on the whole expansion draft, I think Vegas took advantage of everyone. And I think Seattle had the exact same rules. And I think everyone learned their lesson. Like, Vegas took advantage of us. We're not going to let Seattle do it. So I think Seattle just kind of, they try to play hardball, but teams are like, no, we're not going to fall for it like we did with Vegas. So take whoever you want, and honestly, and I think that's what hurt them. And I said this, I picked them to be last in the Pacific before the season. I was shocked on how well they did this year because they don't really have superstars on their team, and that playoff run they had, I think, was the worst thing for them, to be honest. That little them beating Colorado, I think that hurt them more than anything else because that made them probably think like, okay, now we're contenders now, and when they really should have been rebuilding for another couple of years. So, like I said, I have nothing against Ron Francis. I've never met him, but Mike says he's a great guy, but I agree he's not a great manager. I agree with that. I never understood a lot of the moves he makes. I mean, they had 3 coaches in 3 years.
right.
So, I mean, you can't have. How can your players get used to playing the NHL when it's a new manager every year? So, hopefully, they change things up in Seattle. I mean, Seattle's a great place. I went to a game there and it was great atmosphere and everything. The fans were great, and they deserve to see better hockey than what they're seeing.
okay, well, 3-time Stanley Cup champion, 2020, 2012 Conn Smythe Trophy winner, most wins by a goaltender. Jonathan Quick played his final game against the Florida Panthers. Mike, what are your thoughts about the career that Jonathan Quick had? This guy, to me, is one of the best American goaltenders ever.
Yeah, fantastic. I can remember when he was coming out of college, and there was a lot of questions about his character. It didn't take long. I mean, he matured, obviously, after college. And he brought UMass Amherst to its first Final Four years before they were as competitive as they are now. But he really came of age in LA, and he was the difference, especially that first Cup team that they had. I believe was an 8th place team.
They were 8th. They played the Vancouver Canucks in the first round.
Yeah, and they rode him all the way through, and of course, they beat New Jersey in the finals, team that eliminated us in triple overtime Game 7, and I'll never forgive him for that. Otherwise, we would have had the pleasure of losing to Jonathan Quick and the Kings. But anyway, but I think he was even better when they won the Cup a couple years later, and they beat the Rangers in the finals. I think he was even better in that series, because if I recall, there was a few overtime games in that series, in particular the last game, right, when Martinez scored. Was it in New York, the last game, Cody? I think it was.
In 2014, they beat New York, yeah.
Yeah, Martinez scored right on that rebound down.
Yeah, Martinez, yeah.
I mean, he was fantastic in that series, and going into that series, all you heard about was Henrik Lundqvist, who, in my opinion, very overrated. But anyway, good-looking guy, wears nice suits, gets on team. But Jonathan Quick, twice the goaltender.
And what a goaltender this guy is.
Jonathan Quick, he's the American standard for goaltenders. I'm just looking at some of these stats. I mean, he had a 2.5 goals against, and he had a .91 save percentage. I mean, yeah, he's all the young American goalies coming up, they're going to use him as the barometer for where they sit and what will want to be like him. And why not? I mean, what do you get? Three cups, and he has a handful of awards. And to Mike's point, he matured in the profession, which shows if you can get your foot in the door and you're around the right people, great things can happen. And obviously, Jonathan Quick that happened to him. I mean, he leaves a legacy behind for the others to follow.
Great take. Okay, Cody.
I mean, that cup run he had in 2012 was probably one of the best in NHL playoff history. I mean, the saves he was making, he was just a monster that postseason, and that's why he won the Conn Smythe. I mean, to go 16-5 in the playoffs, I believe, 16-5, which is crazy to do, especially as an 8th seed. Right. I believe they barely even made it into the playoffs that the last day or last game. So for them, like I said, that's what we were talking about earlier. Sometimes it's the teams that are hot at and have the momentum, make the run, and that's exactly what happened with the Kings. And like I said, and what a great career that he had. He went to Vegas. I mean, he's not the main reason why they won, but I guarantee he was the one that was helping them prepare. Every playoff practice they had, he was preparing the team because he had the experience. You just know he's a Hall of Famer. Most U.S. wins by or most goalie wins by U.S. born goaltender, Hall of Famer. He's gonna have a statue in L.A. and his number's gonna get retired pretty fast up there. So, congrats to Quickie there, and I hope he has a great retirement.
Andy?
In March of 2024, Quick became the winningest American Bowl goaltender in NHL history, surpassing Ryan Miller. In February of 2025, Quick became the first American Bowl-born goaltender to win 400 games. Cody, to your point, NHL record, highest save percentage in a single playoff season at .946 at 2012 season. So, yeah, he's the American standard for goalies that every little kid's looking up to.
Exactly.
What can you say? Obviously the United States won the gold medal in the Olympics, but it starts with people like him, where you have great young American goaltenders, they move up. And I think that when you have guys like him, and Connor Hellebuyck, I believe, was the guy that won it for the United States, right, if I remember right, in the past Olympics. When you have a foundation of good young goaltenders that you have in the United States, it not only does it build your program in the Olympic program, but it's also a good foundation for a lot of these guys to do well in their NHL careers. And nobody does it better and quicker than John Quick. All right, let's continue on to one of Mike's favorite players, Zdeno Chara. Was at the Boston Marathon. Mike loves to talk about his buddies, Zdeno Chara at the Boston Marathon, but guess what? On January 13th, Mr. Chara had his number 33. By the way, 33 is my lucky number, not the worst thing in the world. And is retired for the Boston Bruins. Mike, the floor is yours about your favorite player. It's jersey retired. He's the Boston Marathon. Take it from there, Mr. Santos.
Well, as you guys know, I've known Z since he was 17 years old. I was with the Islanders when we drafted him in the second round. I've not seen too many hockey players work as hard as he did, off the ice, after games, and what a quality guy he is, too. But I will say, as we get on in years, and I've got a little bit better than a decade on him, he's really starting to piss me off because I got into marathoning, as you know, and he got into marathoning. And last year he runs the Chicago Marathon, and now I'm running the Chicago Marathon, and now he does the Boston Marathon again, and now next April I'm doing Boston, and I just can't catch up to him. So I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep sending him the nasty messages I text to him every time he accomplishes one of these things, because it's what I got to do to keep up. But, I have two favorite guys that I was with or managed or whatever during my career, and one's Zdeno Chara, the other's Paul Kariya. The two classiest, greatest people first, over and above hockey, just like they're just quality people. And if you have a team with a person like that, you're not going to go wrong. Like we talked about leadership earlier in Toronto. He was the difference. He was the difference on every team he went to. And even some of the teams, I mean, Ed probably could speak to this, that he ended up with in the last couple of years of his career, that he only spent a year there with. I think you would be interested to find out from some of the guys in that room how much he meant to them just in the short time he was there. So kudos to him. Well deserved to get his number retired, which I can't say about everybody today. It seems like they're building statues and putting numbers in the rafters as fast as they can in some of these markets. But not for him. He deserves everything.
Number 33 is sacred. Candy will tell you how much I love that number. I use it everywhere. And for you Boston Bruins fans out there, just so you know, 15-12 left in the second period. The Bruins lead the Sabres 1-0. That series is tied at 1-1. Okay, Candy.
You know, he was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame following a historic 24-season NHL career. He was inducted in his first year of eligibility. That speaks volumes. He is the tallest player in NHL history. He played 1,680 games, most by a defenseman. Captained the Bruins for 14 seasons, won the 2011 Stanley Cup, and won the 2009 Norris Trophy. He is known for, as Mike said, extreme endurance training, having completed multiple marathons and Ironman competitions. So kudos for an organization to recognize somebody that's had such success.
Okay, Ed.
I was always impressed with him. You know, being a Caps fan, it was great that season he was with us just to see him up close, but he was always a thorn in the side, you know, playing for the Bruins against the Caps. But what I was always impressed with was his size. I mean, being as tall as he is and being able to skate like he did was very impressive, especially, you know, skating, it was just impressive to see a man that size and that build that you usually see in basketball on two blades of ice and doing what he did. To Candy's point, I mean, I'm looking right here. I mean, 98 to 21, 22. I mean, 20 plus years. And most of it with Boston. You know, he had a very successful career. First ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, what more can you say about him? And he still sounds like it from what Mike says. You know, Mike he's making Mike grind a little bit harder too, because, you know, the egos are always there, and, you know, we're always, you know, we've got our buddies that are always pushing us harder. But no, I think it's great, and, you know, best of luck to him and all this other stuff he's doing. I think it's great.
Cody.
Nah, I've just heard nothing but the utmost respect about him from, you know, multiple podcasts that I've dealt with him. Like, they say he's just one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet, and like I said, Mike attests to that as well. And so I'm sorry he's pushing you harder to run marathon. No one can push me harder to even try to do a marathon. I'll be lucky to even make it downstairs at my house right now. But like I said, I love what Jeff Merrick said. They're saying he should have won the Lady Byng every year because he didn't kill anybody on the ice. Just how big he was and everything like that. So, like I said, the control he had, being the biggest dude out there, like I said, and I know I've always been the biggest dude on my team. I never had that kind of control. I went through people when I could. I played soccer. I went through people. I didn't care. But he looks like he was like, he can control himself, and just. And I heard a story that saying he didn't like calling rookies. He preferred to call them first-year players because he wanted everyone to be equal and not make the rookies feel like they were like away from the team. He wanted to have everyone be together and have more camaraderie and everything. So, I mean, that he's probably one of the greatest captains in NHL history as well.
Great stuff. All right, 2 more topics to get to. One, let's talk about the all-time best NHL season by teenagers. All right, we're going to start off with Wayne Gretzky. Back in 1979-80, he was only 19 years old in 79 games played. He had 51 goals for 137 points. I'll read them off, and then we can talk about them. Number 2, Sidney Crosby, 2006-2007, 19 years of age, 79 games played, 36 goals, 120 points. Not too bad. Macklin Celebrini, I'm actually pronouncing that name better, thanks to Cody anyway. I really did it a few times. 19 years old, 77 games played, 42 goals, 108 points. Jimmy Carson, I wonder if do you remember him, Cody, Jimmy Carson, or maybe you just heard of him? Anyways, number 4, 1987-88. I like to pick on Cody with the age thing once in a while.
Thanks.
No problem. My pleasure, my friend. One of these days you'll be sitting in my chair doing it too.
Yeah.
19 years old, 80 games played, 55 goals, 107 points. And then last but not least, you have Dale Howard-Chuck. That would have been good for Dennis Marook to talk about. But 18 years of age, 80 games played, 45 goals, 103 points. All right, we're going to go with Mr. Cody first. What are your thoughts about this list?
I mean, just what a great list of players. The one that, shocks me the most was, just the Celebrini one. Just to be honest, we're not in that age of high scoring like it used to be back then. And for him to do what he did on especially his team, he was really, I want to say almost twice as many points as the next guy on the team. And he scored that many points as a teenager. And then just what we saw him do in the Olympics too, where he was I want to say he made the first team of the Olympics as well. He was one of the top forwards. So, like I said, what a great list of teenagers. But Celebrini is the one that, to see what he does, especially since he did it to my team a couple weeks before the season ended when he had that 4-point night. Oh God! But it's just how he plays, and when he has the puck, you're just like, lose it, please lose it, lose the puck, get rid of it. Get him. But I mean, he's magical when he has the puck, and the vision he has. He's fun to watch. I wish I would have enjoyed it more when he wasn't doing it to my team, though.
Well, keep in mind, one thing about Howard-Chuck, he played for the original Winnipeg Jets, and I know Dennis Marook was off tonight. He'll probably definitely be able to attest to that. Okay, we'll turn it over to you, Ed. I know you go back a little bit here.
Well, yeah, hearing Crosby and Gretzky and stuff like that. To Cody's point, I kind of what Sid the Kid's done to my Capitals over the years has been very traumatic, I think, to an extent. But just to see, it shows you how good these players actually are to be able to amass those kind of numbers at the young teenage age, that they're able to do that. That's, I believe hockey is one of the toughest sports out there because you're on two thin blades and you're trying to hold off guys trying to knock you off on your butt. So, for them to be able to do that and then continue on with great careers, Gretzky and Sid and so on. I think it's fantastic.
If I recall correctly, I believe, Mike, you could probably help me out on this. Gretzky and Carson were traded for one another, weren't they, in that big mega deal Well, it's
Yeah.
Edmonton, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Carson's
yeah. So yeah, Jimmy Carson always impresses me. I think he eventually played with the Red Wings, but Carson and Gretzky were. So I look at Carson a little more impressive names on there, but Gretzky and Crosby you expect, and these other three names, especially Carson and Howard, Chuck played in an era where a lot of people weren't born. I'll turn it over to you, Mike.
Look, they're all great players. They're all great offensive players from the jump as teenagers. I mean, Arlen Lemieux was as good as anybody as a teenager. I think Celebrini, I'd like to know, like, by the day, he might be the youngest of all of them by the day, because he was a 17-year-old playing at Boston University before he was drafted. I mean, his talent's through the roof. It's going to be amazing to watch him probably for the next 20 years, how good a player he's going to be. But there's two guys that I think belong on this list. And one, I'm going to argue, is the greatest teenage player of all time. And you guys probably know who that is. But the first guy I'm going to say that's missing off this list isn't a forward. He's a goaltender. That's Tom Barrasso.
Who?
Tom Barrasso.
Oh, Tom Barrasso. Okay, yeah.
Tom Barrasso was the first great American NHL goaltender. And as a teenager and a rookie in Buffalo, was sensational. Won the Calder Trophy as a rookie of the year.
Yeah, they didn't put goaltenders in here, but that's a good name. Who's the other name?
I mean, we always, well, that's why I'm saying, I mean, you look at all these guys that put up points and they're phenomenal. And I understand it, like the goal scorers always get the attention. I know that because I didn't score a lot of goals. But anyway, but the greatest teenage player of all time, I'll argue, is one of the top two, maybe at least definitely three greatest players of all time. That's Bobby Orr. Bobby Orr.
Exactly. Yeah.
Bobby
Bobby
Orr.
Orr.
And
Okay.
if you want to talk about offense, he revolutionized the game offensively for defensemen. And as a teenager. So I think Bobby Orr belongs in that group as well.
So according to our research department, we got Beck Woodland, 16 years, 350 days. That's his name that nobody. You think there's a hashtag out there for us though?
He coached.
Researcher? Probably not. Those who put it in there.
He was a Bruins coach.
Yeah, he was. I remember him for that. I do remember him for that. All right, crack researcher. You want to add to this one?
I mean, Bepp was the youngest. Then Don Raleigh was 17 years, 147 days. Ross Johnston, 17 years, 207 days.
Ross the boss?
Don Gallagher, 17 years, 222 days. And two more in their 17s. Jack Hamilton, 17 years, 265. And Ted Kennedy, 17 years, 322 days. The next one would be Alexander Barkov, 18 years and 31 days. So those are the
I think Mike was saying to play for players to hit that milestone, not just playing.
right, correct.
Because I was gonna say, I know for a fact Ross Johnson ain't pulling up 100 points.
No. This is just the youngest.
100 penalty minutes? Yes.
I got you.
100 hits? Yes.
Youngest to score an overtime goal, Matthew Schaefer. Youngest to score a hat trick, Jordan Stahl.
So, Mike, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Candy just volunteered her way onto this show permanently with her research.
I second.
I was just saying, hey, you're saying it now. You're one of us.
Yeah.
Is that a thousand, Mike?
That was great. That was
Every
nice.
show needs a stat person, and Candy, you are the stat person.
What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I'm
I'll
on.
tell you what, Candy. She texted me, you got a big smile. She don't know much about hockey, but boy, she researches it like she knows everything about the sport. Guess what, Candy? You just lost your. When we get back from overseas, you just got the biggest smile on the planet, and you're on your way to take it to sports. And she
No more
starts
behind the
being
scenes,
like,
Candy.
oh my God, Candy. I'll never let her live this down all the way to Portugal. I'll be in her ear, among other places. All right. Last topic of the night. We want to wish a happy birthday to Eddie the Eagle Balfour. Turned 61 on April 21st. 484, 320, and 125 regular season mark. 88, 68 in the playoffs. 5-1 Game 7. That's money. 3 Stanley Cup Finals, including winning one and 99 for Dallas. Okay, Mike, what are your thoughts about Eddie Balfour?
Eddie Balfour. My first recollection of Eddie Balfour was winning the NCAA championship as the goalie for North Dakota, Fighting Sioux. I believe it was in 88?
86, 87.
687.
See, Candy, there you are.
That's why
There
she's
you
on
go.
this show, too.
A year later. Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but that was my first recollection of him. Didn't know him personally at that time. He was a great goaltender. He was also one of the goalies that lived up to the reputation of goalies being completely nuts. He was one of the craziest people I ever came across. And he should be very thankful that he's having his 61st birthday today. Because there were a lot of times when I don't know if I would have said he would have made it to 31 or 41 or 51. So congratulations, Eddie. But yeah, he was a great goalie and completely out of his mind.
Yeah, out of his mind. He got peppered pretty good being back there with all the shots he took over there at 61. I struggled at 63. This guy made it to 61. More power to him, not me. Okay, the newest members. They've got 2 new members of this show here, Candy and Ed McAndrew. So, all right, Candy, I can't give you no stats on this guy because I came up with a few to save you a couple. But what are your thoughts about this guy?
Many regard him as an elite goaltender and one of the best of all time. His 484 wins ranked 5th among all NHL goaltenders. He was, as we had said earlier, he also went in his first year of eligibility into the Hockey Hall of Fame. But here's the one thing, I don't know if you knew this, Scott. In addition, Balfour is one of only 2 players to have won an NCAA championship, an Olympic gold medal, and a Stanley Cup. The other player is Neil Groton.
Wow. Well, as I say, that's why she's on this show and every other show. All right, Ed, what do you think of your new partner, your new teammate here?
We'll just start calling her Stats.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, Stats just becomes no, I'm just kind of looking over some of his information. I mean, he had a wonderful career, and Mike said he was one of the guys who defined crazy goalie, but I would think most goalies should be crazy doing what they do just because, they get rubber biscuits shot at them at 100 miles an hour. You have to be a little nuts to put yourself in that spot. No, but I think he had a great, as Stats was saying, had good save percentage, good goals against. I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer. What more can you say? I mean, and he's got the trifecta for the gold medal, Stanley Cup, and what is it? The Frozen
One
Four.
gold medal, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's an impressive trifecta to be, if you really think about it.
And incarcerations.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, Cody.
Well, happy birthday to Eddie Balfour. I actually do have a friend that actually kind of works with him right now. My friend does sports memorabilia, and he says he talks to Eddie Balfour all the time, and he actually helps him in our fantasy hockey league. So I told him that's cheating. That's not fair. And he has I think Chelios and somebody else that helping him. I'm like, first of all, no, that's not how it works. If you have that many Hall of Fame helping you, everyone should get one in the league. I don't care who it is. I'll take any of them. But no, he said Eddie's a great guy. And as Mike said, crazy. So congrats on the birthday, Eddie.
Well, actually, that does it for this edition of Sports Wrap. But we're not done yet because Mr. Santos is going to let everybody know about Hockey Operations LLC, aren't you, Mr. Santos?
Yeah, you can get me at msantos@hockeyonthepitch.com.
What's the latest with it?
What's that?
What are the latest developments with Hockey Operations?
Oh, well, we've wound down another season. We don't do much during the playoffs or the off season, so we'll be gearing up and still trying to develop that app so that we can launch it for public consumption, hopefully by the end of this summer.
Now, when we return on May 14th, we'll hope to have all of us here. Of course, we look forward to having Dennis Maruk on. You weren't able to make it tonight because we had a situation with his pet dad, but you'll get him when you come back on in a few weeks. No big deal. But I'm glad you're able to make your debut and you did it really
Yes.
well. I'm proud of you.
Thank you for having me on.
And we're looking forward to having you on. Like I say, hockey, soccer, and definitely Tuesday night we can use you as well. So I'll make sure we have good communication like we have here as well. So why don't you let everybody know a lot more about you, Ed, what you do on a regular basis, and how we can get a hold of you.
Well, I'm on all of social media. Ed McAndrew on LinkedIn, Facebook, at Sub60Ed on Instagram, Sub60 because it's a nickname given to me by a friend of mine. I'm a little person, so Sub60 means I'm under 5 foot, and he thought that would be a appropriate. And I told him, I said, that's probably one of the best things I've ever been called, besides other stuff. So what a little bit about me? I have a very dry sense of humor, self-deprecating sense of humor. I like to tell people, if you know Brad Williams, if you've heard of Brad Williams, the comic, the little person, I'm like him except funnier. So I'm just, for my real job that pays the bills, because Scott doesn't pay anything. I'm a business consultant for manufacturing companies, so I love doing this kind of stuff. I try to keep a positive light, and I believe smiling and laughing can get through the worst of times. So,
Like I said,
we also have to. My motto is: you play the hand. We're all called to play the hand dealt, and we're the best we can.
And I'm glad to be reunited with Ed because Ed and I met each other on another network. And when I saw he was available, I said, how would you like to come on my platform? But what'd you tell him, Ed?
I said, absolutely, Scott. Thank you for asking. That's why I'm
good.
here.
Well, guess what? He's on this show. Yes. He's on all of our shows. I'm going to work him hard on Inside the Pitch, although you won't be on there for 3 or 4 weeks because I get to go ballistic on the road. All right. and wear out my voice there. Doing all 9 million videos with make your own kind of music on maybe 1 or 2 of those all over the place. And Mike Santos is a good tour guide. I'll be hitting a soccer stadium, and Mike and Cody are salivating about. Don't worry, I got plenty of soccer stuff plenty out. And Ed, you come in at the right time. All right, Cody, why don't you let everybody know how to get hold of you? And you need to get what's his name? Who was the guy you just talked about? To get on your show.
Ed Belfour?
Yeah, get him on your show. That'd be.
Trust me. I'm trying to convince my friend to have us get one of those guys on our show. Trust me, I'm trying. I'm working. But the show that I work at, we'll do a quick little thing right there, is called Royally Quacked. It's my baby. I created it. My dad and I co-host it together. We do it all things Anaheim Ducks and LA Kings. And for the first time since we've started this podcast, we each get to talk about playoff hockey. So, and let's just say one team's doing better than the other. Yes. And, but, we're having fun, and it's nice to talk playoff hockey for the first time since we've started. So, and we're on all things social media, and we actually just got onto a new network called the Hockey Podcast Network. So, we continue our same schedule, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come and chat with us, and if you want to talk crap, because trust me, we have a friend that loves to talk crap to us all the time.
Okay. All right, Candy, take us the rest of the way. I wrote a book, and it's a pretty good certainty that everybody on this group is going to end up in the next one. Go ahead, Candy.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book. Lessons from the Microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40 plus years in the media business and how it has evolved and changed. Tons of stories in there. Go get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. The audiobook is also out there. There's a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a plethora of great content. So go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you want to be a guest or a sponsor, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And last but not least, if you see that red subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, click it, like, or share us with all your friends and family, and turn on your notifications so you're notified every time we go live. Monday nights is baseball night. Tuesday nights is football. Wednesday nights, you never know what's going to be happening. On the Motor City Madmouth show, it's a one-on-one show typically. Sometimes we have extra guests. And then he's got Sports Exchange Wednesday nights. And then on Thursday nights, it's the show, Sports Rep. And then typically we have Fire Up following. But Fire Up is taking the night off since it is the NFL draft tonight. But we will be on a short hiatus for a couple weeks here while we go explore. And we'll be back better than ever about the second week in May. Back to you, Scott.
Yeah, Europe is where we're headed, and I have a lot of stories that I'm looking to share with everybody on this group. And we had quite a week of shows, Candy, didn't we? Had a lot of fireworks yesterday in a lot of different ways. Had baseball. We had a lot of great programming in the works as I work on more and more guest upgrades. But I'm proud of the group that I have. Mike Santos has been with me for a long time. He's been my rock here when it comes to hockey. And we met for a guy named Frank Lodato. And Frank Lodato, one of the classiest people on the planet, right, Mike? To me, he was like a father figure to me. And because of him, I got to meet up with Mike. And Mike and I have worked hard on a lot of projects as well. So that does it for this edition of Sports Wrap. Anything else you want to add to close out the show, Mike?
Yeah, I just want to welcome Ed. It's great to have another guy on here that can give you a hard time, Scott. It makes the show.
Well, you know what? Hey, listen, I'm open to anybody that comes on this network that gives me a hard time. I love it. I have no problem with it. It's okay.
Go, Candy. Go get him. Get him, Candy.
I think it's good. Let me tell you, I think it's great banter. It really is.
Exactly.
If you want to see a good situation where there was fireworks, all you have to do is turn into yesterday's Motor City Madmouth show. And the next show was one for the agents. I'm not tipping my hand, but go ahead. And then you'll see where fireworks where you didn't need July 4th, you had 4/22. So I'm not telling you what it is. If you really want to watch some fireworks, go to Motor City Madmouth show on 4/22. But yeah, anybody wants to give me a hard time, I'm all for it because I don't even care. All I have to do is have a great crew and not screw it up. Doesn't matter. I come up with the content, you give me a hard time, and it's a beautiful thing because no matter how it turns out, it's entertainment. We all have fun, and we all want to come back, and we always look forward to doing it better the next time. Right, Mike? At least give me that.
Yeah, no, it's great, and especially when we don't have any Red Wings topics. So this was a really good
Yeah.
Well, I can't get straight praise after that one. But don't worry, I look forward to having Dennis Rook back on, and then we'll have a chance to meet him. But of course, we'll have a chance to meet him in person. I think he's going to be down from the 20th to the 28th. Mike, he texted me that. So, meanwhile, I mean, half of Mike Santos and the newest member of our crew, Candy Evelyn, because she just volunteered for another job that she, like she does on every other one. Now she can't prepare for Fire Up. Now she's got to do stats for this one. Congratulations, Candy. And congratulations to you, Ed, because now you're on a couple times a week. And Cody, what can I say, my friend? You're as steady as they can get. You're as steady as Eddie Danforth. Pun intended. Hey, the pun was intended. It was there.
So I'm crazy now? What?
No, you're not. You're great. Just like he is. He's in the Hall of Fame, pal. Look it up. He was before your time, was he?
Wow.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, a little bit before my time, yeah.
Yeah, right. Don't give me that.
I saw more of the tail end of it.
And he won a couple of stars in 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
You can't play the 8 card on that one. You can play it everywhere else, but you can't play it on that one. No way.
All right.
Well, how old are you? 32?
33.
Yeah, then you're not. You're before your time. Not that one. You've gotten away with the age card there, but you're not what fell for.
No,
What you saying, Mike?
I remember him with the Stars, and I believe it was Chicago.
Yeah, I know. He gave the Red Wings some pretty tough series when they were in the Western Conference a long
Yeah.
time. Mike, what were you going to say before I cut you off? Sorry about that.
I said it's time to play the song, Scott.
Huh?
Pull the curtain.
It's time to play the song.
We will put a wrap on it tonight on behalf of Mike Santos, Candy Ebling, Ed McAndrew, and Cody Spink. My name is Scott Morgan, the Motor City Man. I'll thank you for joining us on this edition of Sports Wrap, and we will see you on Thursday, May 14th. Oh, boy. May 14th. Now I'm pulling the curtain because I'll mess up the next month that starts with them. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining me.
Good night.